What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to the Whatcast, and welcome to this special report on what the fuck is going on in the sky.
We're not even halfway through the second month of the year, and we've got some crazy fucking shit going on with all these spy balloons and now potentially a UFO being shot down over Alaska, ? I mean, by the time, so we're recording this, just so everyone is aware, we are recording this on Friday, February 10th. And today, there was a confirmation by the Pentagon that an unidentified aerial object had been shot down over the skies of Alaska at 40,000 feet. And it crashed into the water, and they're recovering it. And all that they've said so far on this subject is that it was the size of a car. It was silver and cylindrical in shape. There were no signs of any sort of propulsion system, and it was just floating there. So there was ABC News correspondent named Martha Raddatz who was reporting on this. And at the time of the report, they were saying that there were fighters that were scrambled and that the pilots did get visuals and said that there was no sign the object had any propulsion. It was described as being cylindrical and silverish gray, and it seemed to be floating. When the official was asked if it was balloon-like, his response was, "All I can say is that it wasn't flying with any sort of propulsion. So if that's balloon-like, well, we just don't have enough at this point." So at this point in the evening, this is all the information that we really know on this. Other than we know that President Biden himself ordered to have this shot down earlier today.
Oh, this seems just like a series of mistakes. I think that they let the spy balloon linger too long, and people bitched that. I mean, I thought it was weird that they just let it chill there for so long, and people bitched about that, myself included, I guess. And when this thing appeared, they didn't want the criticism again, so they just shot it down. Do you think this might be an overreaction of them trying to finally study these UAPs? I mean, I'm in shock. I think they shot down a fucking UFO.
I mean, maybe they did. Maybe it's just another spy plane, but it's interesting, or spy balloon rather. But isn't interesting? All of these Chinese balloons, they all seem to be like these big white balloons. And I was doing some reading over this past week, as things were developing with this story. And it was admitted that there have been 5 of these that have been 5 spy balloons that have been reported over U.S. airspace. And this one, the one that they shot down on Saturday, they realized what it was, and the balloon itself was 200 feet in diameter. So it's a big fucking balloon, which is why I think a lot of people that were reporting seeing it early on were reporting, basically a UFO sighting. And why when the dude in Montana posted that video of it just kind of hovering in the air that we talked about last week. For anybody that may be listening, we've got a second show that typically when we take a week off here, we'll post it. It's called Casting What's. And I think we posted our first episode on the main feed as well. But for anyone who just wants more of our bullshit, you can check that out on our off weeks. But it's not like a paranormal show typically. But because this was at the time last week when we recorded, all this balloon stuff was new, we decided to kind of just shoot the shit about it for a little bit, make some wild speculations, and get a little conspiratorial. So if you want to listen to that, that's cool. I'll probably go over some of the stuff I covered there as well. But when we were recording that, all the stuff was new, so we didn't have a lot of information to really go on, other than they were saying it was a Chinese balloon, and we saw the video that was posted from Montana showing this what looked to be a glowing ball in the sky, but I think it was just light reflecting off the balloon, making it look like it was glowing. But in the video, I mean, you're looking at the video and you're like, what the fuck is that? What could that possibly be? So without having any sort of context or other knowledge about what this thing is, it's easy to see why it could be called a UFO. But again, this is a big, round, white balloon, and what was shot down today was said to be cylindrical and silver. So, I mean, that's not to say it's not a balloon or a blimp or something, but at this point, we don't know. Could this be another Roswell sort of thing? Like, I don't know. I've got some weird feelings about this one.
As do I. I mean, it's funny that you mention people maybe seeing this balloon in the sky with no context. Unfortunately for me, I found out about it, and they were already calling it a Chinese spy balloon, which I find strange to begin with. I don't know how they're identifying it as Chinese. I said that in Casting What's, and I found it strange that they're so quick to call this balloon Chinese, name it, something where it was from. And with this thing, they're just calling it a flying object, a high altitude object.
Yeah, unidentified high altitude object.
Right. To me, that's strange.
They're making sure not to call it flying. They're calling it aerial. And again, this goes to, we've been talking about this since the Tic Tac video came out, and that article came out about ATIP and all that shit. But it's interesting how, like, the main people that are quote unquote studying this are now labeling these. They're no longer UFOs. They are unidentified aerial phenomena, which is interesting because now we're seeing this thing being described as aerial. And yeah, I guess you can say it makes sense because they are objects in the air, but I just feel like there's a reason why they changed the name.
Don't you think it steps away from there being an actual vehicle involved?
In a way, yes, but I think that they changed it purposely so that they could kind of use this term to cover a wide range of potential sightings or objects or events.
Okay.
And I do. So getting back to the Chinese balloon for a minute here, if I may, we know that the Chinese balloon was over our airspace for many days. It was allowed to cross over our country, coming from the west, and it was shot down off the coast of South Carolina. So it was allowed to go, basically wherever. They were able to determine that the antenna that was on the spy balloon, there were various different antennas for surveillance purposes, but this was supposed to be seeking out secret U.S. communication signals. And I mentioned on Casting What's, this flew right over the area where Malmstrom Air Force Base is. So that's the Air Force Base that has one of the largest. Actually, it might be the largest nuclear arsenal that we have. And it was also the place that had been where the UFOs shut down the towers and made a lot of flyovers. And So this thing ended up flying over there, but because they knew what it was looking for, they are claiming that the military was able to take steps to prevent any communications from being picked up by this device. And once they were aware of it, they were watching it and kind of trying to learn more about it. I don't know, exactly what technology was used to determine what this thing is, but they were able to learn a lot about the Chinese surveillance program. But to me, the weird thing is the fact that there's this spy balloon being sent over. Allegedly, it wasn't detected until it had crossed a couple of states. And it just has these huge Chinese characters written on it. Like, it just seems so weird to me that, like, if you were flying a spy device over a foreign country, that you would just put your fucking your alphabet right on there. Like, might as well put made in the USA, and then we'll fly it over, and then you can shoot it down and be like, no, it says USA right on there, and be like, oh, I don't know, it wasn't us. Like, that's the shittiest spy device ever. Like, we've got our logo right here, so it's us.
And it seems like it would be something that's a little bit expensive just to fly up there, put your logo on it, and be like, hopefully it'll last a little while longer than last time. I mean, maybe they won't shoot it down this time. That is very weird and suspicious.
So let me propose a little something here. At the risk of getting too conspiratorial, I would like to outline a potential conspiracy theory that I've been thinking about since last week. Like, I talked about it a bit in the Casting What's episode as well. But with this thing being shot down today, and given the context of these Chinese spy balloons, what if these quote unquote Chinese spy balloons are actually something, a fake spy balloon that was created by our own government? And the reason for the creation is so that if people see UFOs, they'll start associating them with spy planes, or spy balloons or spy blimps, whatever. What if the government knew about these UFOs or a potential UFO encounter or incursion or landing, flyover, whatever, and they knew this area had UFOs, and so they created this whole spy balloon thing, so that when they announced that they shot something down, people are going to immediately assume it's another Chinese balloon. And then in the future, anytime you see a white orb in the sky, Chinese balloon. And then we can just start blowing these things out of the sky left and right, and people aren't going to say we're shooting down UFOs. We're all of a sudden under attack by all these surveillance things that we need to shoot down to protect the secrets of America and to protect the American people. Meanwhile, our own government is spying on us left and right, but they're able to take out all of these UFOs as they fly over without any real worries of the public lashing out or freaking out or doing anything like that.
So, for lack of a better term, I guess this seems to be the start of some type of conditioning operation.
Well, dude, I've been saying this since they came out and officially started declassifying videos and acknowledging that UFOs are real.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying that this is a whole process, and they're working this process to muddy the waters with military exercises. And this allows them to fly secret craft without anybody questioning it. This will allow them to shoot things out of the sky without anybody questioning it. It's and when you muddy the waters, like you say UFOs are real, that covers your ass for your secret technology that you're flying in the skies. But then you start throwing out this spy balloon thing, and now you're going the other way, where anything you see in the sky It's not a UFO. It's not experimental military aircraft. It's spies. And it seems almost like if you were going to design a plan to cover up both your secret activities as well as the potential reality of UFOs, UAPs, whatever. I don't want to say aliens because I'm not going down that road. But the best way to do it is to acknowledge the existence of mystery things and then provide a plausible explanation for what a lot of these mystery things could potentially be. And I think it's interesting that not even, 2 weeks ago now or 3 weeks ago, they came out with that report. And in the report, they were saying there was like 50% or 45% or something that of the reports that they had studied that were unexplained. And now, just a few short weeks later, we're getting incursions into our airspace by spy balloons. And now, a week removed from that, we've got a mystery object that was shot down over Alaska.
Now, we talked a little bit about this on Casting What. I'm sure there's other times where there's been spy craft spotted and stuff like that. And you looked it up and you said that these balloons have been spotted all over the fucking place, right? Like for years.
Yeah, and it's the same type of balloon has been reported. I believe I said there was one reported in India a couple of years ago. Actually, last Friday, as we were recording this episode, there was breaking news that one was just spotted over Costa Rica. And I didn't follow up on that, so I don't know what ended up happening with that. But as of Friday, they said there's one over Costa Rica as well. So I don't know. It's a lot of weirdness.
Well, I heard on the news that when the Chinese government was asked about these balloons, they said, "Yeah, sorry about that. It's a weather balloon." I mean, like you said, putting a logo in Chinese on it doesn't make much sense. But if that's the case, why are they all of a sudden appearing everywhere?
Right.
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and so they're China acknowledged the fact that it's theirs, and they're like, "Oh, our bad," basically. But it kind of makes me wonder if maybe much like the political system inside the United States with the Republicans and Democrats, if world leaders are much the same way, where it's like WWE, where it's, you're to the eyes of the public, you're all fucking enemies and you want to beat each other up, but when the public's not looking, you're tipping back beers, having a good time, being buddies and just hanging out, just you're really working for the same goals, working towards the same thing, working for the same people. So I wonder if maybe, and again, this is a big if, and it's not even really what, I doubt this is what's really happening, but what if China and the United States are working together to muddy the waters regarding the UFO subject? And so they're kind of just throwing everything at the wall right now and be like, "Oh, look, spy balloons. Yep. Chinese spy program." And then who knows, in China, maybe they're having US fucking spy balloons coming through.
Right.
Or some other country, or maybe something else entirely. And it's just, we're not hearing about it over here. I don't know. I don't scour Chinese news. Maybe I should. Maybe I should start looking at Chinese news in English and seeing if there's any weird UFO things going on.
That's a very interesting point there. I wonder if this is, I don't know, give us a target, China. Okay, we'll fly some weather balloons over and we'll call them spy ones. And yeah, everybody working together. Could be. Very well could be. I mean, if I'm sure that there's been other spy drones and balloons that other countries have had over American soil before. I'm sure that's something that happens all the time. Why are we hearing about this one so much? I haven't seen anything about the one that was over South America. Like you said, there's one in over India a few years ago. We talked about one that was found floating over Japan, like in 2012 22.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I forgot about the one in Japan too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's more like that's world news, I guess. But why are they making a big deal out of this one? And I think you're onto something there with, at least with the conditioning stuff. I mean, like when they shot it down, I was worrisome as far as them not shooting it down sooner. But when you sent me the information, that screenshot that you sent about the thing they shot down, I was like, holy shit. Like, of course, Mike was right again with what was going to happen, but I mean, that's quick. If this is conditioning, that's really quick.
Well, it's not really. Like, think about it. Like so 2017, we had the leak of that video, and then the government came out and confirmed that it was real. They declassified the shit. And the New York Times article came out. We learned about A-Tip. We learned about Lou Elizondo and fucking Tom whatever from Blink-182 started doing his thing. And then so look at throughout history, when you want to get a point across or you want to get a message, the first thing to do is find someone that will be able to get your message out there, that will have some connection with the people. And when we were coming up in the research thing, like all of the researchers were like these fucking weirdos. No one knew, like, unless you went to conventions or like really stayed up till like 2 a.m. to watch an obscure UFO documentary, you weren't going to know who a lot of these researchers were. But now you've got like the Tom DeLonge coming out, and you know he's cool punk band guy, and then you've got fucking hipster douche Jeremy Corbell out there doing his thing, and Lou Elizondo's like a fucking military man's man, you know, like one of those guys. And it's like they've got this whole cast of characters that are coming out now. And it's like the old guard, the researchers that have been there, you know, since fucking, with the, I shouldn't say all of them, because George Knapp is very much front and center now. But, you know, at this point, I wonder how authentic George Knapp is. You know, like he used to be the guy who was like, well, look, he's not a UFO guy. He's a journalist, and he was made to be a believer. Now he's like the journalist that's taking this seriously. But I wonder how much he's been pulled in, because he's been, you know, he was the one that broke the Bob Lazar story, and now he's got a podcast with Jeremy Corbell. And I don't even know if I've said anything on the podcast or if it's just been you and I talking in person or, you know, offline. But Jeremy Corbell was a guy that I was like, I found super interesting when he first started doing his shit. And he was like putting out all these like really cool cases and doing a lot of really cool research. And you know, he seemed to be a guy who was enthusiastic and super curious about the subject, and like just wanting to learn more and research and get out there and actually investigate. And then he started making these documentaries, and I think the first big one he did that kind of like really started to put him out there was the Skinwalker Ranch one. And then from there he did the Bob Lazar one, and we did cover the Bob Lazar one on the show. And it was a good documentary, but I feel like once he put that one out, that's like what thrust him into the limelight. Like he was like the guy at that point. He was the one that was able to actually get Bob Lazar to come out after all these years and start talking about the stuff again. And not only that, but built a whole fucking documentary about it.
Right.
And I feel like that he kind of got a big head, but as a result of that, I think that likely as a result of the fame and popularity, not as a result of the big-headedness, but as a result of that coming out and all the attention that he got, I think that likely opened up avenues for him, where I think he's kind of like led into the fold a little bit, so to speak, where he now becomes a disinfo agent. And a lot of people are looking at him, and same with the To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge and Lou Elizondo and all those guys, looking at them as being like, well, look, these guys they've got connections with insiders, and they're giving us all this information and blah blah blah. But I hate to beat a dead horse, because I know I've said this a million times, especially in relation to this fucking UAP thing and the admission from the government. But Richard Doty was an inside man who was giving information to outside sources. And I mean, all you have to do is look at the Paul Benowitz case to see how that turned out. So it's very possible that these people are being duped by who they're considering to be insiders, and they're being fed all this information that's bullshit. Like, I remember last year or was it 2 years ago? I think it was last year, where the video came out with those flying, blinking pyramids.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Corbell was the one that released that. And when he released it, he said he received confirmation that these videos are authentic, and what we're seeing is what really happened. And very quickly, that video was debunked by the Corridor Crew channel. They knew exactly what it was. And they put out a video where they were looking at these UFO videos and trying to figure out, what they were. And the Corridor Crew, for anyone who doesn't know, they're like a special effects team. And they've got a YouTube channel that's fucking excellent. I highly recommend it. But they've got a few videos where they look at paranormal videos and they try to debunk them using modern special effects technology, I guess. But they looked at that video in particular shortly after it was released and instantly said, these are just blinking lights, could be from planes, could be from drones, could be from whatever, that due to the graininess of night vision, instead of like when you'd see a light on low quality camera, usually it would take the form of like a pixelated square or like some sort of weird shape. But with this particular type of camera, because of the low quality and the low light and the fact that it's in night mode, these lights take on the way the light reflects through the lens or refracts through the lens. It creates this triangular shape. And so they said that very early on. And while that video came out, Jeremy Corbell was still like, he didn't acknowledge that video or say anything about it. But when they put that video out, he was still making the round saying that this was authentic footage, et cetera, et cetera. And it has since come out and officially been verified that these were drones that were flying over the ship, and they were being recorded by a night vision camera, which created this effect that looks like flying pyramids.
I believe it was the UAP hearings that they debunked that one, like live there.
You're right. It was the one that from last year. Yeah. So it's just further shows that all these people that are front and center saying that they're here to break the news and bring about disclosure, they're fucking bought and paid for. And if they're not bought and paid for, then they're being duped. And I think, and I talked about this with Tom before, but I think it's a matter of ego getting in the way. You get pulled down this road and you're like, well, you're going to be the person, you're going to be the voice of disclosure. You're going to be the one that's getting this information that's going to help us spread this to the world. And, you're told all this stuff and you start to feel self-important. And you're the one that's getting this knowledge. You are the chosen one that's here to help bring humanity the truth about aliens and extraterrestrial technology and all that shit. And then so it gets to a point where you might start to believe the lies even as you start to realize that they are lies, because you are the chosen one. why would it be a lie at this point? You've been led down this road. You've gone this far. This can't be a lie. This has to be the reality of the situation. I'm not being Paul Benowitz. God damn it. This is real. I can trust the government this time.
Yeah.
But I really strongly feel that all these people are either under the payroll of the people who have the actual answers, or they're being duped and tricked into thinking that what they're putting out there is real and actually providing information to the public, when in reality it's not real. It's all a big fucking game of make-believe.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like that tactic would be like an evolution of older tactics. You can't just make somebody disappear without people noticing these days. I mean, just imagine being Jeremy Corbell. I mean, we've made fun of how his watches get fancier every appearance he makes. But just imagine being this kid who's put in a lot of work. I mean, like you said, the Bobby Laser documentary was great. I was stoked to see Bobby Lasers talking again, and gave him props for being able to do that. And I like his stuff. I really do. But just imagine being in his situation and not have like Agent X come in and ice pick him and leave his body in the bathroom of an abandoned building in some industrial fucking park or something like that. But just being approached and being like, okay, you've got our attention. Imagine this. We're just going to let you keep doing what you're doing. You're going to say what we want you to say. But, you get to get your new watches. And, hey, how do you think we got you on Joe Rogan, man? We shot him an email. That's how, we've got you over 1 million Instagram followers. Everything that's in the modern person wants. I guess what I'm trying to say, the modern person probably be bought out so easy, right?
Yeah, especially if you're like, it's not like being a researcher in the paranormal field is profitable,
Uh-huh.
So being a guy who's put in as much work as Jeremy Corbell has, and all of a sudden you're getting put into the limelight. Like, I'm not saying the dude's a fucking multimillionaire or anything, but the dude's clearly, he's comfortable. He's making decent money doing this stuff now. Like, this is what he does. This is how he earns a living. So, I don't, someone who's put in the work, I can't see them turning it down when it's, especially if it's being framed as like a sort of thing where they're working towards his ego and saying, you're going to be the voice, you put in the work. And I think it would be an easy way to get someone convinced, is by basically playing to their ego and being like, you put in the hard work. We know that you are capable of doing this. You're well spoken. You've got some good ideas. You're able to put together a good documentary.
The people love you.
Let's scoop this guy up, and he's gonna help get the word out. And of course, I mean, being in his shoes, hearing all that, like, it's got to sound fucking awesome. But then, that's the wildest thing to me, is that everyone's aware of the Paul Benowitz story at this point. I mean, they wrote a book, Mirage Men, and then did a documentary about it. The story was legendary even before that, with Richard Doty coming out and saying that basically he's a disinfo agent, and everything he's been putting out there has been bullshit. So to hear that story and be aware of that story, and the fact that not only that was happening, but that now they put that out there. Like, I feel like the fact that that's out there now is whoever's behind the cover up just mocking us now, because they're saying, haha, look what we did. But they're continuing the same tactics. Like, you think it's going to be any fucking different now between now or then and what they're doing now? It's just, they've got, at the time that the Paul Benowitz thing happened, they didn't have social media. There wasn't people broadcasting live at any given time. There wasn't people posting pictures of every single thing they do in life online. Like now you've got such, like, the best marketing you could ever think of. And you get someone who's like a well-known, respected person within the UFO paranormal community, and you have him throwing out your bullshit for you, and that's reaching millions of people every single day. And then even people that don't follow him but are still interested in the subject, they're going to get picked, they're going to pick up on it. So it's like this whole thing where they're able to create disinfo from within. It's not like it's like they're bringing down the researchers from the inside. Like guys like Stephen Greer, who back in the early 2000s was doing fucking amazing shit for disclosure, getting all these witnesses and putting together that witness documentary thing. That was incredible. I think that was 2001. Anyone who hasn't seen that, who's interested in sightings by government and military officials, just look up Disclosure Project witness documentary or witness interviews, something like that. But there's two parts on YouTube. One of the first part is 2 hours, I think, and I think the second part is like an hour and 20 minutes or something. But all it is, it's just like there's no narrator, no bullshit. It's just literally all that it is the witness telling their story, and then it goes to the next witness telling their story, next witness. And they're all either work in the military, in the government, or work for private airlines. So it's all people that would, have experience with sightings. And it's amazing. And, he did the original where he called a bunch of these witnesses together to do a hearing in front of, it wasn't in front of Congress, but it was in front of a bunch of congressmen and women. But then, and now we look at the fucking crazy shit he's doing now, charging $10 gajillion for a fucking camping trip, essentially.
Right.
It's preposterous.
To the best of my knowledge, no new documentaries or anything like that either.
He had the one Unacknowledged. I think there might have been one after Unacknowledged as well. But then he had that whole the Atacama thing, that little mummy that was found.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's a fucking alien!" And then they did the test on it, and it had human DNA. Which I still stand by the fact that they should have made a much bigger deal out of that than they did. Like the fact that had human DNA and it looked like that, like that's fucking wild, man.
Yeah.
Like they should have done a lot more studies on that.
Yeah, that's strange in itself. It doesn't make sense. You gotta basically look past just the news article, man. Just the news report. When they tested it and said it had human DNA. I guess that's enough for people. Like I said a few episodes ago, that satisfies their curiosity. And they move on. But
here's a thing that I wanted to propose to you, and it kind of leads me to this. So that thing, that mummy, had human DNA. Looking at it, there's very little resemblance to a human, other than the fact that it's got 2 arms and 2 legs. Like it's got a weird shaped head. Its bone structure was weird. Just there was a lot of anomalous things about that mummy. The fact that it was like 2 feet long or something. I don't know.
If that. And I remember seeing them going through the structure of its rib cage in great detail. Like the big thing with the rib cage was that its rib cage would not have been possible for a child. Like it was an adult's rib cage. And I think that was the weirdest thing. And maybe that had an extra rib as well. There's something else weird. And there were a few weird things with the skeletal structure that was off. But it makes me wonder, like, what if this whole thing, like just as an example, the fact that this came back with human DNA, and people are immediately, it's got human DNA, therefore it's not alien. But what if whatever's behind the phenomenon and whatever this thing was,
What if it's all together? And what if it actually is humans? And the biggest secret of all is that these UFOs and these abductions and all that shit, it's being done by other humans, by a civilization that we're not even aware of. And that's why it's being kept so secret. It's not the fact that people are going to lose their shit about aliens coming from outer space. It's the fact that there's another group of another human civilization potentially that lives on this earth or in the ocean, who the fuck knows, that are now here and don't answer to any of our governments or any of our laws, and they're able to work basically of their own accord, like do whatever they want to do, and they're beholden to no one because their existence is so secret. And so like that thing had human DNA because it is in fact human. It's just a weird mutation of humanity. And they like these crafts or UFOs, or they're not spaceships, they're not interstellar vehicles, they're not able to traverse space and jump light years. They're a different technology that is able to basically fly as well as submerge. Like it makes me wonder, completely unrelated to UFO, but actually did we ever do an episode on Coral Castle? Do you recall?
I believe we did.
In Florida. Okay. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's a place in Florida called Coral Castle, which is like this weird, it's not really a castle. It's like this art display thing that this one person did all of this, but it's like stacked stones and huge blocks that are positioned in weird places. And this guy claims to have done it all himself, but has never said how. But there were these kids that I guess were spying on him one time, and they saw him with these cones, and he was using these cones to make these rocks levitate, basically. And so like he would balance, like somehow the rocks would levitate, and using the cones he would be able to kind of float the stones between these cones and position it into the place he wanted it. So it makes me wonder if this could be the technology that was used to design a lot of these ancient monuments and megaliths, like the pyramids or the foundations at Baalbek or Göbekli Tepe, any of those, the big names on Ancient Aliens all the time. They're like, how did they do it? Was it otherworldly entities? No, it was people on Earth that had technology that we forgot. And there's a great documentary series called Ancient Apocalypse, which is basically Ancient Aliens without the aliens. That's proposing maybe it's a ancient civilization that's been lost to time that's behind it. But what if it's all one and the same? That's what I'm saying, though. Like, what if this technology that they had to levitate these huge stones, because we don't know how the fuck these things were put into place. Still to this day, we don't know how it was done. And what if they have this technology to move the rocks, but it's also, they can use the same technology to levitate and to take it further to fly at high altitudes in the sky, but also create a field around a craft so that they could also submerge underwater. And what if this just to take it further and get even fucking crazier with it, what if this technology was able to create pockets underwater where you could have a city, say, like maybe a bubble city. And no, I'm not saying that Atlantis itself sunk and we've got a Namor or Aquaman sort of situation going on. What I'm saying is, they very well could come from fucking Atlantis. And just kind of to add to that, isn't it weird all the stuff that's coming out about the Rishat structure and the Sahara Desert of Africa being linked to Atlantis now, and all the research going into that? Like maybe it's just coincidental, but maybe not. Maybe whoever this civilization was is making a comeback, and they're kind of guiding these discoveries so that when they finally come back, it's like, oh shit, it was here all the time. I mean, we know that humans in general, like as a whole, not individuals, are perfectly fine and wonderful, and there's plenty of super sexy, awesome people out there, and most of them are Whatcast patrons, but I'm sure some of you non-patrons are sexy and wonderful as well. But as a whole, humans are the fucking worst. So would it really be too much to speculate that an ancient civilization over time separated from the rest of humanity for one, whether it be flooding, whatever, they wanted to hide their technology, maybe they were assholes and got chased away, I don't know. One reason or another, the civilization went into hiding. People being shitty as they are, they sit in the water or underwater or underground, wherever the fuck they're hiding out, and they've got their society, and they come up here, and they, over the centuries, over the millennia, they've grown to resent us, because here we are living under the sun where they used to live, and now is their time to come back. And so they started out with abductions, taking us in the night, mutilating us, doing all sorts of fucking tests, killing our cows, creating chupacabras, all that shit, dropping off Mothmans.
Yep.
And then they basically they want revenge on us, so they're kind of steering everything into this whole thing. They probably created the whole fucking Anunnaki Nibiru thing, like, we'll come back and we will be as gods, when really they're just fucking assholes that have been living underground for the past 2,000 years or whatever. And I guess it would probably be more like 12,000 years, but either way, fuck those guys. Stop killing our cows and taking our babies, you sons of bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.